All right, so the very first tip that I have for you, we're going back to basics here because sometimes it's necessary to take one step back so we can take 3 steps forward, right? So check your grip. That's the very first thing. We want to make sure, in order to have the most true ball flight, we want to make sure that we have a good solid 4-seam grip with our thumb underneath the baseball. Okay, I see a lot of players, first of all, they might, instead of having a good 4-seam grip, they might have their third finger on here like this. They might have their thumb kind of on the side of the ball like this instead of underneath. So we need to make sure that we have a good 4-seam grip on the baseball. We don't want to be choking the baseball. I see another thing is a lot of players don't have any space in between their hand right here and the baseball. They end up choking the ball like this. That's almost like throwing a changeup. We want to avoid that at all costs. So make sure that we have a good 4-seam grip. Again, that's the very first thing that I want you to master, and the first thing I want you to check, because that's going to allow for the most true ball flight. A great way to work on getting into a good 4-seam grip is to just throw the ball up to yourself, kind of like I'm doing now, and try to get to a good 4-seam grip as quickly as you can. You can do this at home. You can do it while you're watching TV. You can also lay on the ground in your living room or lay on your bed and just toss the ball up to yourself, and as it comes down, try to get to that good 4-seam grip as quickly as possible. For you younger players, you might have to look at the baseball to really align your fingers properly, but eventually you're going to get the hang of just doing it without even looking, and then you are going to be set up for success in terms of throwing. All right, so once we have a good 4-seam grip, now let's get into actually throwing. So I always talk about throwing starts from the ground and works its way up, and I want to reiterate that point in today's video. Throwing really starts with our big muscles, with our legs, right? Our legs, our big muscles, are a lot stronger than, let's say, the little muscles, the 4 muscles that make up our rotator cuff, right? So we can work on, speeding up our arm all day, but unless we have strong legs and unless we learn to throw with our big muscles, throw with our legs, we're not going to be able to throw the ball with much velocity. So it starts from the ground, all right? So all of our momentum, all of our velocity comes from that ground force really driving down through the ground. From there, once we drive through the ground, that works its way, all that energy works its way up the kinetic chain, works its way into our core, right? And then our core, it transfers into our arm, and eventually it goes out of our fingertips when we make the throw. But just the biggest thing is understand that throwing does not come from just all arm, right? I guarantee you, try this actually. Next time you go to the field, warm up like you usually would. Make sure your arm is nice and loose, nice and ready to throw, but try to just go down on both knees and eliminate your lower half and try to see if you can throw as hard without your legs as with them. And I guarantee you're not going to be able to do it. It's because your legs are the strongest part of your body, so we have to use them. All right, so that being said, starts from the ground, works our way up. Let's start from the ground right now. Let's say that I am throwing to you. A common problem that I see, and this is something that I want you to check, maybe you can have somebody videotape you. That'd be a great way to check this. A lot of times when players go into their throwing motion, they think that they are square to their target when actually their front foot opens up just ever so slightly to my left side here. So it's almost like I'm stepping in the bucket a little bit, or vice versa. They're stepping across their body just a little bit like this. Either way, if I step in the bucket, my arm is going to lag behind like this. I'm probably going to push the ball to the right. I experienced a problem with that when I was a little bit younger, and I just stepped in the bucket just a little bit, my arm lagged behind, and I pushed everything to the right. You're also going to have problems if you step this way because you're really just fighting against your body, and you're not going to have much control and much velocity. So that's the first thing. Your feet, when you throw, they have to be square and in line to your target. You can draw a line on the ground like this to make sure that they are square to your target. Now, when you take your stride, you do not have to have your front toe closed like this. That is not a very powerful position. I don't recommend you do that. I recommend it be open about 45 degrees, same as if we were hitting, right? It's open about 45 degrees, not open like this and not closed like this, slightly open, but you'll notice it's still on this line. So we need to make sure our feet are in line, our hips are in line, and our shoulders are in line to our target as well.